NIPMO is the National Intellectual Property Management Office. It is the implementing office of the legislature called Intellectual Property Rights from Publicly Financed Research and Development Act, in short, the IPR Act. NIPMO is the specialized service delivery unit of the Department of Science and Innovation. The IPR Act is an act that aims to ensure that the intellectual property coming from publicly financed research and development is identified, protected where applicable, utilized and commercialized to benefit all the people of South Africa. It was promulgated to make sure that when the public funds are used in research and development, the outputs of such research are recognized and utilized to benefit all the citizens.
The IPR Act came into force in August 2010. Its mandate is very limited. It is limited to intellectual property that was created using public funds. Prior to the IPR Act, ownership of this IP was negotiated. However, the legislation brought some changes whereby ownership of this IP is legislatively mandated. It says here, he who received the money and conduct research and development will own the IP that comes from there. As the default owners of the IP, the recipient now has an obligation to ensure that intellectual property that was created using public funds is utilized, commercialized for the benefit of the Republic. One more other obligation is that the recipient must ensure that its IP creators at its institution receive a portion of the revenue that was generated from commercializing their IP. Prior to the IPR Act, government could not track what IP or what investment they made towards the research and development. So with the IPR Act coming into force, we now have a database where we record all the IP that's being disclosed to NIPMO. What we also track in this database is the commercialization part, whether the IP is moving from being licensed or being commercialized, and whether the IP creators are receiving their portion of revenues. No, NIPMO does not implement the IPR Act alone. The Act mandates all 26 higher education institutions and 11 science councils, typically the science councils, to have an Office of Technology Transfer. These offices of technology transfers work hand in hand with the researchers and the inventors to ensure that IP that comes from public funds is being commercialized for the benefit of the Republic.
NIPMO has got two roles in terms of the Intellectual Property Rights Act. It's got an enabling role and a regulatory role. In terms of the enabling role, this is where we use an Office of Technology Transfer Fund to assist the institutions in terms of human capacity development and trainings. And in terms of the second fund, which is the Intellectual Property Fund, where we assist the institutions with the costs that they've incurred for IP protection and IP maintenance. We do not work in isolation when we provide these activities. We work together with other stakeholders in the NSI to ensure that our stakeholders, our researchers and innovators are aware of intellectual property. For more information, please visit the National Intellectual Property Management Office website or the Department of Science and Innovation website.